Good afternoon, traders. Chris Buss here with Traders Profit Compass with a mid-session update for Tuesday, November 30th. It's 12:45 in the afternoon. Okay, we've had some follow-up selling. We had the gap down, then a big bar, and two touches of the 50 EMA. And as you'll recall from this morning, that would be a place where I would be covering your shorts right in here into support and look initially for a bounce. The first time it touches that EMA in a long time, you should be anticipating the bounce. Looks like we're starting to get it. This is a live chart. So we came down here, touched the 50 twice, and now are rallying. And what you need to do in these scenarios is drop in your fibs. And here you would, here is a high to the low, and then you're going to get, let me just do that real quick for you. Okay, here we go. So put in the fibs. That will give you the levels for a retracement bounce. And, if you can get like a half back or a rally back to the top of this gap that stalls, then that would be your re-entry point on a short. Same view, more granular view on the 30-minute chart. You can see we came down here, touched it, and now we're starting to move higher. If you're tactically trading, this recapture of 458 would be a buy signal. And remember, this gap is filled now, so it won't be on future ones. But right now, you've got you'll have a level of resistance right here at 459. So you can enter at 458, be ready for a hesitation at 459. But if you punch above 459, there's a really good chance to go back up to the top of this of the prior gap. So up towards 262. So be ready for that. Let's see. Let's move on to the Qs. They've held up better. Initial green candle, followed by the bigger rug pull here. And the way I've got it drawn, it looks like it's short of the gap. But since price is reversed and put in this hammer candle, I'm going to go ahead and call it good from the standpoint of gap filled. Now, one thing we didn't do on the Qs is back test this Friday low, where yesterday we had the rally. This was the Friday low. I would not be surprised if we bounce up a little bit and end up coming back to touch that 390 level, but we'll just have to wait and see. But the gap has been filled. We're starting to rally. You can see where they reached down twice, and there were responsive buyers down there ready to go. Here's another view of the gap on a 30-minute perspective. You can see that it is shy by $1. Normally, I would say, not good enough, but I think on this big move where we see responsive buyers come in, I think we can consider that filled. IWM's the real bad one. A lot of put action on IWM. This is the daily chart, so this is just from today. Came down. We didn't even bounce at the 200, which is, you're supposed to at least bounce there, okay? Just shows how weak it is. So we are down below, trying to bounce up a little bit. You can see a hammer candle forming on the 2-hour chart. And so you've got a level here at 217 is the new low. So we printed a lower low, Found some support right in here at 217. Now it's a question of, do we bounce? Can it bounce? And to what extent? Now, I don't have it drawn in here, but there is an open gap up here. Looks like about $1 wide from 223 to 222. So you can mark that in on your charts, and I'll have it on mine once I do an update. But that would be a place where price could rally into 222 and then fail, you know, if that turned out to be resistance. So IWM is very worrisome. Facebook, gap down. We talked about needing to hold 334. If it didn't do it, we thought this gap would fill. That's exactly what happened. Big impulsive bar. Tried to put in a little bounce, couldn't do it. Now we're back down here to 326.60, something like that. And so now, I mean, you see the levels it's got to hold. It's got to stop right here. Otherwise, it's going to slide down to 224 and then potentially all the way down to 320 to test the top of this gap down here. I don't expect that to happen today, but hey, I expected this to bounce on this first touch. Didn't do it. Went right down and filled it right away. So now your new level is 326.60-ish. If it breaks below that, then 324. Apple's been the star today. I didn't see any particular news, but a nice big green bar to close the gap from the other day. Came up and tagged the prior high up here towards 164 3/4, and then they drove it back down. That's usually a very bad sign because notice that it would be a double top there with big bearish divergences. So, but they came back to the gap and now they're ramping it again. So really strong price action in Apple. Yeah, so I mean, as it's coming up and recapturing these levels from below, I mean, you can buy it there. And if it happens to break out to all-time highs, I would buy it. Tesla, big strong opening bar. They brought it right back to the bottom of this flag, and now they're bouncing it. So really, up until this point, technically speaking, nothing's happened. Why? Because it's still in the range between 1140 and 1120. Nothing's been violated. I think you can go ahead and trade that as you please. You get a breakout back above 1140. I think you can come right up here to 1150 and possibly even back to the high of the day, which happened right on the open. So, I mean, holding up like a champ. I mean, it's not even down. It's up a penny or two. So, you know, this looks really strong. Microsoft, I mean, we had this trade. This was perfect. We talked about 338. You can notice that on this candle, reached right up to it and then reversed it. That's when Powell started talking right at 10 a.m. And they just went down and filled that gap like right to the penny. And now trying to hold the line here down around 329.5 right there at the bottom of the gap. Now you lose that. Let me show you something. This 330 area, gotta hold. Why? Because you got a huge void down below. And if things get really ugly, and this 330 breaks, I think you're going to go to the 50 in a heartbeat, $10 lower. And if it's really that bad, I think you're going to come all the way back here to test the top of this gap at 315. And then the last thing to do, technical standpoint, is to back test the breakout at 305. So, breakout, back test at 305 and go. Now, I don't know if it's going to do that. All I'm saying is we've talked about that scenario so many times in the past. It's a very common move. So if you're watching Microsoft, or I would watch Microsoft, let's put it that way, if you want to trade it, and you get a breakdown below 330, then you can get short and look for a first move to 320, then to 315, then to 305. Okay, so that's going to be a really important level this afternoon. Amazon really let go almost right off the bat. Came down here again, no bounce at 35.40. I would have expected that, but came right down here, filled the gap, and also tested Friday's low. Mission accomplished. You can see a hammer forming. So right now you can be long against 3,500 if you want to be trading that, and then look for a bounce. Your first resistance is going to be that 35.40 number. So, down, test, and then bounce back up and see if it's going to end up being more or less a V bottom, or is it going to roll back over again and head back towards these lows at 3,500. And, if you're a bull, 3,500 just got to hold. No two ways about it. So that's that. Google came up here to 29.30. Came down. Here's the Friday low at 28.40. Our low of the day was 28.46. Does that have a little more to go? Yeah, technically. But I think the key is going to be this candle. Do they push it down one last time? Or do they break back above 28.60 and then ramp it back up to the top of the gap and then to this 28.95 area? So a lot's going to depend on how this afternoon session goes. I mean, do more sellers come in and just try to bury it, or do they try to rally it from here? And I think I'm leaning more bullish than I am bearish, because remember those oscillators, they were already blown out before we even started today. So they were down in oversold territory. Now, is that going to stop any further selling this afternoon? No. But given the fact that we touched support and are now bouncing like across the board, I think that bodes pretty well. Here's an exception. Netflix, it hasn't, started right up here and, big red bars, no bounce at all. So I think this is going to go to 647.50. If you're not in it already, forget it. You got to recalibrate down to 647.50 and then see what happens right there. Whether, and this is the Friday low. So, excuse me, that was just the prior low. We're way past the Friday low. So yeah, we've got a prior low here that's going to get tested here at around 647-ish, kind of a number. Semis, right back down to the gap, which we talked about this morning at 302.50. If it comes back in, we probed it here, a little bit of a bounce. If we come back in, I would imagine the gap will fill and you'll go down to the trend line and that's a location where I would be inclined to take a long. Why? You got 3 layers of support. You've got the bottom of the gap, you've got the trend line, and you've got key support. So you've got three layers there, and I would imagine that 299 would hold, and I'd be looking for a long down in that area. And again, if it doesn't hold, then you're going to come down to 290, 250 and fill this lower gap. Quick look at ARK. Genomics continues to work. Remember, we got short up in here. We had the blog article the other day on ARK having trouble. So this trade is working. ARK Innovation, we lost this 107.50 this morning. If you got short, stay short and look for 100. The last chance is at these wick lows right here. I don't know what that number is exactly, about 103.50, something like that. You'll see that on your charts if you're trading it. But you go past there, you're going to come back to test this prior low at 100. And I honestly think that's what's going to happen on the ARK names. Here's FinTech, already has broken those lows. I think this one's going to 45 to test this low. If you're not in it already, forget it. You're in no man's land right here. You can't, your time to get short was up here at 48 this morning. And you either did it or you didn't. And if you didn't, you got to wait till 45 where this low has been checked, and then we'll either get a bounce or we'll break lower to take the next leg down. American Express, we had this trade idea the other day. Now we're below this 157.50 and below the 200. So now the door is open for a move down towards 146. So that short idea is off to a good start. And then this is Carnival Cruise Lines was a trade idea the other day. We had the gap down, which set up the bracket trade. And then yesterday, they made a bold move, but then they faded it right away. And then so that was one of those scenarios that we've seen and talked about. The fake move, they break out of the zone, or in this case, into the zone, into the gap, and then reverse it all on one single candle. And then this morning, we broke below. So your time to get short would have been at or around 18. Right here, I don't really think you can. I think you gotta wait and hope for a kickback rally towards 18 where you can get short. But I wouldn't short it here, given the fact that we're waiting for a bounce across the board. So why initiate a new short at this juncture? We got to get that rally. We got to get the oscillators to become more relaxed, and then we can decide: are we gonna play for bullish outcomes, or are we going to layer back on shorts on a bounce that ultimately fails? So we're going to just have to wait and see. Okay, that's all I've got right now. What I'm thinking about is that, key support across the board has been tested. Some cases, that was the Friday low. That's a technical check mark with the oscillators and other indicators saying we're way oversold. I'm looking for a bounce here. And so we'll see if we get it. Hope you found the video helpful. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for stopping by. Please hit the subscribe button and the alarm bell. You'll get all the YouTube content. And then, of course, go over to the show notes. You'll see a link to the blog site where you can register for all my content. And then whenever I publish something like this video or a trade idea or a market observation, something like that, you'll get it right in your email box. You won't have to go hunting around. So keep your wits about you. Don't get flustered. Focus on the levels, not on the money, and everything will turn out the way it's supposed to. So let's wrap it up there. This has been Chris Buss with Trader's Profit Compass. Talk to you next.